Okay, we're back for another installment of your podcast. We're in the week of Thanksgiving. Did you have anything planned for that?
I didn't have anything planned for Thanksgiving yet because I'm not sure if this is the only one we're going to do this week.
Oh, if we'll record again?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, we kind of do need to
catch up.
We
Yes.
have 1 week.
One week
catch
off.
up. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I had something, though,
Yeah.
and mindset, which comes up a lot in conversation, and it seems to have come up a lot in conversation in the past couple of weeks. Came up at a team meeting this morning, talking about mindset. We watched the Tony Hoffman video about his mindset change from being in prison to being in prison and saying that he was going to become a professional
BMX.
BMX.
He
bike
said he was
rider.
prison to Olympics.
Prison to Olympics, exactly right. And
prison to Olympics.
And be a public speaker and start a company.
A nonprofit.
A nonprofit company. A nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And last week, actually, I went to Bold, the real estate Keller Williams class, Bold, and it was a lot about mindset. And then one of the questions in the Bold handbook for homework was, who's somebody that you think of as being optimistic? And I spun a few names around.
You were like, me.
Yeah. I mean, and
this guy.
You know, at 8 o'clock, 4 days a week, I talk to Kaylee on the phone. And that girl at 8 o'clock in the morning is a bright ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
She is so optimistic.
And Kaylee is our transaction coordinator.
Yes.
At Bisson Real Estate.
She's our adopted transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
And so I told her that next day that I had told her the question and told her that I had written her name down as an optimistic person, the most optimistic person that I knew. And of course, she was very flattered. And she talked about how much she appreciated hearing that comment because at a time in her life, she was very far from being optimistic and having a positive mindset. That there was a time in her life when it was very difficult to find any positive thoughts. And then she, basically did what you have to do, which is change your mindset. She had to change her thinking so she could change her world and how she looked at things. And, through the years, she has become and been able to force the negativity out and put the positive in there. And we talked about how, it takes practice to get there. That for some people, most people, it doesn't just naturally happen. You have to focus on what you want to be thinking, positive thoughts. And my question to her was, or not a question, but, when you practice long enough, you can almost immediately make those negative thoughts go away. And the real test is if you can measure the time when those negative thoughts arrive in the beginning and how long it takes for the positive thoughts to win over. And then through practice, how can you shorten that yardstick down so it's in millimeters, not measured in inches or yards anymore? And, I've always likened it also to a remote control. That's the quickest way to change your mind is to hit that button, change the channel, bring a new thought in, erase the negative one, especially if it's something you can't do anything about. And when Kaylee mentioned a lot about that, how when you accept the fact that you can't change the past, the only thing you can change is the now and how you look at things in the future. That was really what helped her change where she was at.
Yeah, this morning she said, we were talking about changing your mindset first, and she said that she also felt that it was almost the opposite, and I'm sure there's a chicken or the egg dilemma there, whether you change your mindset first or you change your actions first, and you could go round and round on that. And when does it take hold and whatever, but she said that, without action, that she almost has to act the way she wants to be in order to be the way she wants to be. I mean, it's in Bold and many other coaching programs or mindset things, they talk about be, do, have, or be, do, get.
Yeah.
Is it be, do, get now?
It's be, do, achieve.
Achieve. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to be it
Yeah.
in your mind,
Yeah.
then do it, and then you'll achieve it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you focus on expands, If you're focused on positive thoughts and, accomplishments, and I am going to accomplish this. I get to do this. I don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do
Yeah.
this. No, it's I'm going to do it, and I get to do it. It's a whole different, way of looking at it, and it's visualization. I mean, it's just opens up a whole great big world of opportunity, really, to change how you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In one of my favorite companies, I'm sure I've talked about them before and will in the future, is Origin. They're based in Farmington, Maine, and it's owned by Pete Roberts and Jocko Willink. And in all the factories, they have giant banners hanging that say, "We get to do this." It's like all over the place because they're making jeans and boots and stuff that they're factory jobs that people didn't want 50 years ago, and now people are dying to have. And there's two ways to look at it. I have to make jeans and boots every day, or I get to make jeans and boots that, have an impact. They're all made in America. So that to me is like what we get to do every day. We could wake up and say, oh, I have to do this. I have to, create a podcast or a video or take photos or show property or hang a sign but it's like, these people need to move. These people need to sell. They need to buy. They need a home. I mean, how much do we each appreciate our home?
I mean, when you think about it, we're helping people in the most important, often the greatest financial decision in their life, whether it's buying or selling or even renting. I mean, and we look at that.
We get to help them.
We get to help them. And it's a privilege.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's an honor. I feel humbled to be able to help people with that. It's a tremendous opportunity to counsel them, to guide them through the process.
Yeah. I've always said that real estate has the lowest barrier of entry with the highest stakes. It's like you're a brain surgeon with like 3 weeks of training. And not to say it's as difficult as brain surgery, it's just there's such high consequences for a mistake or, not knowing to look for X, Y, or Z or whatever it is. And yet the barrier of entry to become a realtor is like you have to have a GED and pass the test.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
I mean, it's an 18.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, most people can do that. That's like at least 90% of the population, I think.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And I would go back to the mindset thing and say, people could make the statement that people changing their mindset, that's for the people that have it easy. When you look at the most successful people, they've been in the most dire circumstances, and they have then risen like a phoenix out of the ashes, to completely change their world. I mean, again, there's so many examples, but the one that we heard this morning was Tony Hoffman. He was homeless. He was on drugs. He had no place to go. He broke into a house and got arrested, sentenced to jail for 4 years. And when he arrived in prison on the upper bunk, he looked up and there was a statement. And what did that statement say?
It said, "Be careful what you think because your thoughts become your words. Be careful what you say because what you say you become."
Yes.
Or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, here's a guy in prison, first thing he sees, and it totally rocks his world. And, from there, it's that whole gradually. Gradually you do things, and then suddenly you're there. And he said that one of his first decisions, how was he going to be able to follow through with actions and words so that he could make a change in his life? And he started by, he was going to be an Olympian. So he started brushing his teeth like an Olympian. And he made his bed every day like an Olympian would make their bed. And then he started habits, exercise that would be Olympian habits. If it was snowing outside where he was, he didn't take a day off from training. He trained every day because people across the world were in the summertime and they were training, so he couldn't miss a day.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool. He's crazy.
And then, he gets out of prison. He gets paroled early. He gets out of prison. He enters into his first competition after being in prison for 3 years. No, for 2 years, and he places third in his first competition. He hasn't been on a bike for
9 years, I think is what
it was a long time.
Yeah, 7 to 9 years.
Yeah,
Something
long
like that.
time not being on a bike, and then he gets third, and then he starts, getting into higher and higher level competition and having great results, and he blows his knee out, and he's not going to be an Olympian. He's told that your knee is not going to, you're not going to be able to ride a BMX bike anymore. And as you're watching that, it's a short video, but you're like, oh shoot, did he have a slip up? Did he fall? What happened to him? He started coaching, and I don't know if it was a couple of years maybe of coaching. He started, nobody wanted him to coach at all. And then he started getting athletes that would coach with him, have him coach for them, and a couple of maybe national champions and then world champions. And then he gets a call from an athlete that says, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but you're going to the Olympics to coach me in the 2016 games, whatever games they were. He coached her, and she said, I just want you to know you're Olympian. And he said when he arrived at the Olympics, got off the plane, he just bawled because he was an Olympian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a cool story. Okay, so you want to talk about mindset. What are some things that we've been talking about as a team or as a family or for you that have been kind of, because I find myself in different seasons needing to lean deeper into different mindsets or different focuses or whatever. What's something that you or us are leaning into?
Well, I would say, what happened for me, I've been very, very blessed that I've had a mindset of positivity all my life. Just from an early, I don't know when I might have had some negative thoughts, but I was like, I don't like those. They're gone. They're history. And I've always had the ability to visualize, doing things. I live across the street from the house that I grew up in, where I would sit in the dining room, den, I guess you'd call it back then, and look across the street and say, I'm going to live there someday. And I'm going to move the house down by the apple tree. Well, the apple tree fell down and rotted, so I didn't have to move the house. But I live there now, and so I just have been able to visualize a lot of things happening, and just whether it was sports, family, how I want to live my life, just if I think it, I can be it. And that's the case with anybody. And, certainly I think our Keller Williams training has really kind of fit well into helping all of us grow in that regard. It just gives us great, if you're bowling, you've got the, what do you call them, on the bowling alley?
Bumpers.
Bumpers, yeah. They're great bumpers to keep you within. And,
You're talking about the bold laws.
We're talking about the bold laws. You fire through those, change your thinking, change your world. The be, do, achieve. Your cells eavesdrop on your thoughts. I mean, you think about that. Yeah, if I'm on the outside looking positively, but inside, I'm falling apart, that's what's really driving the indoors. So how do you make those cells happy? By thinking better thoughts, at least positive thoughts. Yeah, want equals lack. I mean, if you're thinking like you want things that you don't have, and you just you're needy, you're going to lack. You're going to be lacking in either your
versus focusing on gratitude and having what you do have already.
Yeah, exactly right. And when there's a problem, you focus on the plan. You don't focus on the problem.
Yeah, I think there's like 20 plus. 31 bold laws, yeah.
Be, do, achieve. Change the way you look at things. Things you look at change. No, sorry, it's the first one is all tasks.
All work expands
All
the
work
time
expands
allotted.
to fill the time allowed. Be, do, achieve. Change the way you look at things. Things you look at change. Change your thinking, change your world. Come from contribution. Complaining equals garbage magnet. Don't mistake movement for achievement. Do what you've always done and get what you've always gotten. Don't listen to your
Drunk monkey.
limited mindset. That's what that is now. It was drunk monkey at one time. Complaining. Did I say complaining? Do what you, yeah. Focus on the plan, not the problem. Fear of faith, you choose. How you participate in here is how you participate everywhere. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist. It's not about selling real estate. It's about keeping a schedule. Keep your emotions between the lines. Life by design, not by default. Logic makes you think. Emotion makes you act. No pressure, no diamonds. People will grow into the conversations that you create around them. Success is simple, not easy. Spontaneity is a conditioned reflex. There is no try. The things you focus on, no. There is no try. The things you focus on expand. That one's not right. Want equals lack. You get what you deserve in your imagination. You teach people how to treat you. You can have reasons, you can have results, and you can't have both. I've lost a couple of them in there, but that's
pretty good.
Scratching them out of the...
Diana Kokosko would be very proud.
Yeah, she might be all right with it, but I did miss a few.
Oh, you weren't...
And I also haven't practiced for a long time.
If we had you prepped beforehand,
yes.
You would have hit them all, and you didn't get prepped beforehand, and you did pretty good, so I'm pretty impressed. Man,
that's all, you think about what you feed your body. What are you feeding your brain? If you got those things in your brain that are the bumpers,
Mm-hmm.
you can only rattle so much before you get back on track. And that's the trick, is not letting yourself, spin off the main axis.
Yeah. Well, the highway to hell is paved.
Yeah.
Right. The narrow path.
Yes.
Is hard.
Yeah.
And staying in, for me, when this morning at team meeting, Jamie was reading off the 3 types of people. There's the pessimist, the basically naive optimist, and then the rational optimist is what I would say.
Yeah.
And she said the pessimist, and I was like, yep, that's me, 100%. Which I am. I land at optimism, so maybe I'm the last one, but it doesn't take much for me to just jump to see all the ways that something could go wrong. I think it's a strength, not a weakness.
Right.
And then the naive optimist, which you shot your hand up like, yep, that's me. And then Kaylee raised her hand and claimed the rational optimist, which I was proud of her for doing.
Yes.
And I think about me being a pessimist and how, it's so easy to just get sucked into a new... I think seasons are so important. There's weeks, there's days, there's hours, there's months, there's years, but there's seasons.
Right.
And you can get into a negative season. That's what Jamie talked about this morning at team meeting was, struggling for a few weeks with the market is changing. We know that. Everyone knows that. It's not clear where it's going, which if it was just going down, I think we would almost be better suited to deal with it.
Right.
If it's not sure if it's going down, it's going to go down for a little bit and then kind of bump again and then go, everyone kind of just wants to know what's going on. And her message was kind of needing to change her thought patterns around it and her mindset and to change the inputs that she had in her life, getting off social media for taking a season away from that. Some seasons I lean so hard into that and I'm like, I just love sharing things and posting things and doing whatever. And other seasons I'm like, I'm just consuming and I need to get off. And knowing that and recognizing that, whether it's in work or family, spending more time with your family in the summer and maybe working more in the winter or vice versa or whatever. But I think it's so important to recognize seasonal mindsets and that you can get in a rut. I've heard a lot of people talk about like a fresh snow, like you create these mental pathways where you're sledding down the hill, and you create a rut the first time and the second time, and it gets easier and easier to go down because the rut is created, but you're also stuck in that one path.
And the rut gets harder and icier and faster.
And do you want to go somewhere that you don't want to be fast? And a fresh snow will clear that rut, and you can choose a different path. It's also true that if you're digging a rut to something good, that's kind of like building habits and building, be, do, have, just saying that over and over and over again in your mind. So it becomes a part of you. And so it's not so hard, like you said earlier, to shift from a negative thought comes in, you watch it go by, and then you choose be, do, have, or, your cells eavesdrop on your thoughts, or whatever it is that you choose instead of that thought.
Yeah. Well, and something else that Tony Hoffman said that, we've heard before is that if you can earn trust in small things, you'll be given the opportunity and trust to do big things. And you got to start on the small side and then let it expand.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. Took a little break there.
Yes. So back again to the idea of mindset. And, I think the other thing is who are you surrounded with? Who's feeding your thoughts, or who's influencing your thoughts? And, Jim Rohn said, we are the sum of the
average of...
We are the average.
I wish we were the sum.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know. That must be why I say it that way.
I am the sum of all the...
We're the average of the 5 people that we spent the most time with.
Yeah.
And, who are you allowing to be in those, in that circle?
Yeah.
And I think, yes, I also think there can be more than 5 in circles, as long as those are good circles that you're in. I mean, I just think about, if I only limited that to 5 people.
Well, it's who are you spending the most time with?
Yeah.
I mean, or who are you allowing to influence you? Who are you getting built up or torn down by? And you can go into the world and do things with people that are not positive. You could work at a nonprofit or a ministry or something like that, where you're involved with people that are deeply hurting, harmful, etc. But as long as you're making sure that the 5 people that have the most influence on you are not those people.
I guess that's what makes it hard for me to comprehend, is I have just always been, I've got, when you think about 5 people, I have you, your sisters and brother, and that's 5, and your mom, so that's 5. That's all I need.
I think it's pretty unique for your top 5 to be in the family, in your nuclear family.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to you and mom's leadership. I also think that that's not very common. I think it seems normal to you because it's all you've ever known. But if you look at the world, that is not normal.
Yeah, and that's been, if there's one thing I never put blinders on to turn the world, to tune the world out. At the same time, I've just been so fortunate and so focused on all the opportunities that I've had that I maybe haven't seen that, or I don't know. I'm not sure I can explain that real well. I've just been, I said to somebody the other day, I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That is pretty true. I think that about myself too. And I don't know, maybe it's easier for me to see that that's not other people's reality, but just watching some people's experience with their nuclear family or their parents or their siblings or we deal with what, or lack of. Yeah. Well, the absence, but also the like some people are super involved with their family and it's very negative. And, we deal with that a lot in work. Siblings who are selling a property, or, a couple who's trying to buy a property or divorce or whatever it is that people's situation is, there's a lot of...
Not always pretty.
Yeah, tragedy, trauma, betrayal. I mean, those things are hard to deal with. And I think that's kind of why I said, like, the 5 people you spend the most time with or are allowed to influence you matter, because you're going to encounter hurt people who are hurting people, harmful people. And if you don't have a solid base when you encounter that person, man, if someone says the wrong thing to you, you're just going to get blown over. But if you know who you are, because you know who your dad thinks you are, who your wife thinks you are, who your siblings think you are, who your kids think you are, that's what you believe.
Yeah.
Someone comes in and says otherwise, it's like, okay, who are you?
Yeah.
But if you know who you are because you have a foundation of truth that, your family, God, whatever, has built into you, then it just kind of, I mean, it hurts. Some people it doesn't, other people it, can crush.
Right.
But doesn't, you don't leave that wondering, am I that? Am I what that person said about me? It's like, no, I know.
Yeah, I know who I am.
I know who I am.
Yeah. You think about that, and that analogy that we got a little while ago from Gary Keller, as the market started to shift, and he brought about the analogy, metaphor, I'm not sure which one it is, of the buffalo versus the cows in a storm. Yeah. And the cows all...
Every animal, not just cows.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Every single animal.
Every animal except for the buffalo. Every other animal runs.
When a snowstorm comes, every single animal runs away from the storm, and invariably the storm catches the animal, and since it's traveling in the same direction, the animal is subjected to the harsh elements for longer than it would have if they sat still. The buffalo does the opposite. They move head first towards the storm, and because of that, not only is it less than if they went with it, less than if they stood still, it's the least amount of time possible that they're subjected to the harsh elements. And when you ignore the problems in life, you end up in them longer.
Yeah, and if you're an ostrich and you bury your head in the sand, you don't know what you're pulling your head out of when you think it's over.
Jordan Peterson, I don't know what he read this book. It's this audio that I have, and it's called "There's No Such Thing as a Dragon," and it's the kid's book.
I think I remember him talking about that.
This child comes downstairs and says, "Mom, look, it's a dragon," and she's like, "There's no such thing as a dragon," and every time she denies it, the dragon gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, the dragon is so big it occupies all of the house and walks off with the house, and until she finally confronts the dragon, it shrinks and goes away because she's confronted the problem. But he says, he talks about relationships or houses or whatever, where you walk into or you experience and you're just like, ooh, there's some dragons in that. In my own life,
sure.
I'm not pointing fingers. True of my own life, where I'm like, if you walk into a certain room in my house or a certain space of my basement or whatever, there's dragons down there. It's where there's clutter and you haven't addressed what you need to, or my rain gutters. That's like for sure, or my wood pile. I'm like, oh gosh, but we all have areas in our lives where we're ignoring the dragons, and the best thing for them is to acknowledge them and deal with them.
Yeah. And then, so who are the 5 people? And then those are the people who you're physically in contact with. And then I think there are the people you don't see that you allow into your influence. And, who are you, what books are you reading? Who are you listening to?
I've heard a few people say, like, oh, the people I spend the most time with are dead because they're reading books that people,
well, and
philosophers who are dead or
dead. Yeah. The other thing is, again, like the reading or the listening, there's a lot of people that I feel I'm friends with. I'm never going to meet them.
Yeah.
I'm listening to their podcasts. I feel like they're part of my life.
You don't know that you'll meet them.
I don't know that I'll meet them yet.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have huge impacts.
Have you
my
had
life.
dreams about those people?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I literally hang out with people that I spend too much time listening to
really?
in my
Yeah.
dreams,
Yeah.
and it is the weirdest thing
Huh.
ever.
Yeah.
It is very strange.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know that person, but because you've seen them so
Sure.
much online or
Yeah.
listened to their voice so much, you know what they would say.
Right.
Your subconscious knows what they would say in a situation.
Mhm.
So you say something to them,
Yeah.
and they reply as they would.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
what that tells me is I have integrated that person into my life,
Into your psyche and into your life. Yes.
which is crazy.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, as long as it's a good positive
Totally.
influence, it's great.
Yeah.
Mostly because that's all you know about them are the things that,
Right.
you're hopefully are positive and you're
Somewhat
bringing in.
curated, yeah.
Yeah. It just goes to that thought right there. I could never imagine absorbing a negative thought from somebody and making it my own. It's just outside of my imagination, possibility. It just couldn't happen unless it was a positive thought. Couldn't happen any other way.
That's a good mindset. I want to argue with you on that and say that it could, but I'm going to leave you as you are because I like that you believe that because I want to believe that. And
well, I can say, if somebody says something to me that's hurtful, I will take that in, and that will churn and burn. Probably
what is the
longer.
difference?
That's a good question. I would say usually, because when somebody's saying something directly to me that I perceive as negative, I got to flush that through because I'm very...
It's not about you. It's just like a negative statement.
No. Okay, I'm talking about a negative statement. Right then I was talking about a negative statement about me.
Correct,
if somebody said that, I got out of bed too early in the morning, I would think, do I get out of bed? No, I don't. That's an easy one to reference through.
Okay. Rick, you get out of bed too early in the morning.
Yeah.
You don't sleep enough.
Yeah. No, I do. I go to bed early
Got it.
enough. I get sleep.
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah. And even before I wouldn't have let that work even if I didn't go to bed till
What about
time.
Rick? You're dishonest.
I am not dishonest. No problem with that one at all. Yeah.
Where does it...
However, if somebody that I didn't know told me I was dishonest, I would completely be confident. I would be crushed that they used that criticism against me.
Their perception is
that their perception,
because you've worked so hard to make sure that that's not someone's
going to
perception.
happen. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And how could somebody how could they have come to that conclusion? How could they use those words? And who else are they going to tell that to? Really, that's not me. I'm not dishonest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
And there have been times when I've wanted to help people and I've tried to help them, and they've taken my help, and that's not what they took it. It wasn't what they wanted, or it was perceived,
or they're
back to me that it wasn't what they wanted,
or they're a hurt and harmful human.
Could be. Again, and that's my challenge. I can't accept that somebody could be hurtful in that way.
Yeah, I think that's. I listen to people that are famous talk about the negativity online or whatever, and it's just a statistical probability that if you have X number of people in your pool of engagement, that a certain number of that is going to be negative, and it's scary how high that number is. No matter what you put out, positive or negative, doesn't matter. It's going to be higher than it should be. And I would say that the more people that you interact with socially or in business, the higher number of negative interactions you're going to have. It might be the same percentage.
Right.
If you interact with 100 people, it might be 1 to 5. If you interact with 1,000 people, it's now 10 to 50.
Right.
10 to 50 people don't like me. Oh no. Your brain can't really put that into scale. 500 people commented that they hate me.
Right. And so my goal is that when now and for as long as I'm remembered, because I'll be forgotten at some point in time, we all will be.
Yeah.
Is that
That's liberating. It should be liberating.
Yeah. The only thing is what's not liberating for me is the people that I will miss that will not have known that I love them. Because that is my ultimate goal, is that everybody, it's that we always had this conversation that, Dad just wants everybody to love him.
You being Dad.
Me being Dad, yeah. I want everybody to love me.
Mm-hmm.
I do. However, at the core of that, what drives me is I want everybody to know that I love them.
Right.
How could they not love me back?
Right.
But they don't have to love me back.
Right.
I just want them to know that I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to see, I just saw Kenny with Juliet.
Kenny Chamberlain,
yeah.
77-year-old Vietnam vet who will jump off your deck, fix your whatever.
Yeah. Just
the best.
The best. The guy that, nobody knows about all that he does for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and in that, maybe it was a 3-minute conversation with Kenny, might've been 5, he saw you at breakfast the other day at Southgate with his friend who he's known for 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
They've been friends. They probably get breakfast every Saturday morning. He brings that guy a sausage and egg sandwich, 2 of them, every day. Not once in a while, every day. And if Kenny says he does it every day, he does it every day.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of guy he is. And
when he said that, I was like, I don't understand. I respect it, but I don't understand.
Yeah. He's very regimented.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we're talking with him, and Juliet had just dislocated her elbow. And so she had sent him pictures, and she was showing him the pictures and whatnot. And they're looking, and he looked up at her and he says, I love you. I don't want you to hurt yourself. So, for Kenny to say that, and, how much he thinks of us. And, I just looked at him and I said, Kenny, we love you. Right back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's an amazing human.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not many people that you meet that know as many people as Kenny does without some sort of, I would say, like catalyst or accelerator. He literally knows everyone that he knows from helping them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll talk to him about an address or a house or a business or just whatever, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I wired that building."
Mm-hmm.
He used to work for the phone company.
Right.
So, I ran phone lines and that back in the day or whatever. And he's been in everyone's house. And if he doesn't know someone, I'm skeptical to interact with them.
Yeah.
Because if he knows someone, I'm like, okay, they must. If he says like, oh yeah, he's a great guy, but I'm like, okay, cool, I don't have to worry anymore.
Yeah. Cleared.
Yeah. But if he doesn't know someone, I'm like, oh no, I gotta vet this person. He's remarkable. He let me borrow his. Actually, I probably shouldn't talk about that because other people are gonna. He let me borrow a tool.
He lets you borrow a tool. Very expensive tool.
Yeah. He's such a good guy.
Very generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So, that's my goal, is to let everybody know, or that everybody would know that I love them and that they're loved. Yeah. Because some people are not loved.
They don't know they are.
They don't know that they are. Right. Thank you. They don't know that they are. And, trying to remember the phrase, I don't know if I can say it exactly, that I always knew that I loved God. I didn't know how much he loved me back.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's not he loved me back. I think I didn't know how much he loved me. And how, you talk about mindset, if you could just erase it all and say, I got somebody who's with me all the time, never leaves, right there by my side, there to lean on for decisions whenever I need them, whether I'm alone or I'm in a crowd. What more could you ask for?
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake that people make when they think about God, myself included, and my father-in-law has like drilled this into my head in like the most like soft, like sharing more than like you need to know this. Just like he'll just like tell you about like it's so liberating to know that God has no unmet expectations. You cannot disappoint him because he knows everything. So how could you disappoint him? Well, I made this choice. Well, I already knew you were going to make that choice. He loved you anyway. It's like, if you just like do the mental, scenario throughout life, no matter what you do, it's like here you knew you were going to do that. You're not surprising him. There's no unmet expectation. When you do something that I want you to do, I'm happy. When you do something I don't want you to do, I'm not happy because I didn't know whether you were going to do it or not do it. And that's not the case, and that's pretty crazy.
It's why it's why a lot of people can't embrace it because
100%.
they can't accept that.
100%. That's exactly what I was getting at by saying people make the mistake of thinking that they can somehow let God down or whatever. It's like, no, you can't because he already knows. Well, then they think, well, if he knows, then he's disappointed. He doesn't like what I'm choosing, but it's like, it's not, you're putting the chicken before the egg.
And you're trying to be too smart or too intellectual, maybe. I'm not sure if that's right. What I'm thinking about is I got a call. It's a FaceTime. I'm not a FaceTime, instant messenger call. It was yesterday, I guess. No, Saturday morning. And it's this guy that I went to high school with, who I played football with. He's in Thailand now. And he called me the same way, about a year ago. It was just about a year ago. And he'd been diagnosed with cancer and stage 4 and, reviewing life, trying to figure out things, had been a very angry person, had a childhood that would make him question, deny that there was a God at all. I mean, really. He was
and
in that kind of environment.
If there was one, he probably wasn't that cool of a guy.
Maybe. Yeah. And, I've talked to him about it a couple of times, how God can impact his life. And he's asking all kinds of great questions. And he's opened his life up now to saying, okay, the past is past. I have today. That's all I can do with what I have. And he's looking to gratitude and to ways that he can prove that he can help other people improve their lives. And yet he's still struggling with how God fits into all that and how can God let things happen and whatnot. And I said, those are great questions. They are you are so over your skis right now asking that question, because what does that matter? That's not important. It's what's your his personal relationship is what matters, not how it affects or impacts other people. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And I told him I asked him if he read books, and I said, he said the cancer fog doesn't help him sometimes focus on books. I said, well, I'm going to send you them once in a while. So the first one that I sent him was Green Lights.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. I just thought his life, kind of life that he'd had. He'd had been a lot of fights, a lot of abusive sort of relationships.
Well, those are I think for me, those are the only stories that are worth, I shouldn't say the only, those are the stories most worth telling.
Yeah.
Because anything else is just boring. I mean, like, I'm sometimes hesitant the only parts of my life that I want to share are the parts that were like dramatic and chaos, and there was like conflict, and like I was not doing what I should have been doing or whatever. I'm not like, and then my parents loved me and I had whatever I want. Like, that's not the story people want to hear.
Right.
And that's not a story where you learn anything. You don't learn anything from that. I was lugging wood in the house today. We've got like this big house we're trying to heat, and I've got, the heat turned down as much as I can, just using wood stove, channeling the heat into like 3 rooms that we're using. And I was like, man, at one point, people were scared that they weren't going to make it through the winter. And I was like feeling one, molecule of that,
yeah.
whatever. And I was like, I cannot imagine actually wondering it. Pete Roberts, who owns Origin, always says that, in Maine, that you're either dealing with winter or preparing for winter. And I mean, that has not been my life ever. I mean, this year was the first year I stacked wood for myself. If I've ever stacked wood before, it was for someone else or money or whatever to buy something silly. But just to have that perspective of the hard things in life, those are what are important, and those are what you learn from, and you can share. You don't share your life experience with me and say like, and this was a season of my life where everything was just easy, and learn from that. And you're like, no, here's where I faced an obstacle.
Yeah.
This is the lesson I took away.
Yeah. It might be the middle of a chapter in your story that everything was good, but on the front and the back,
Right.
Well, and back to when I said I'm the luckiest person in the world, I said that to somebody the other day. I have struggled with the word luck because I don't believe in luck. Or I never allowed myself to think that it was just luck that made things happen, that, there was divine intervention in what was going on and what was happening. And these particular, the sequence of events couldn't happen just because of one lucky thing to the next lucky thing. And, I got thinking about green lights, sending that to my friend in Thailand, and I remembered his quote about luck. And that has helped me a great deal with sort of.
Do you remember what that is?
I don't remember.
Paraphrase.
I can paraphrase it that he says God is luck, and luck. Oh no, I'm not sure that I can. Maybe we can look it up because it's a great quote. Yeah, he's got some amazing quotes out there, Matthew McConaughey.
I was just thinking about this. One thing that we could do is Lex Friedman, who's one of my favorite podcasters. He's friends with Joe Rogan. He does AI and robotics.
Yeah.
Just like a genius. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Russian is his first language, so he's very well read in all the classics and all that. He always finishes his podcast with a quote that's like, he's like, no emotion. Like that's like, he's like Russian.
Yeah.
And he finishes his podcast with these quotes that just make you go like, And we could, when we finish, I'll pull up that quote, have you read it, and then we can put that in at the end.
Yes.
We could start doing that.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Because it's a great way to just finish.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, we'll do that. What else? Anything else?
Well, I think, the other thing is, what are you feeding yourself with? And all those thoughts, those mindset thoughts, are they affirmations or are they, deformations? And
because people say you're making affirmations either way.
Exactly right. Yeah.
What are you affirming?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot or I'm smart.
Right.
I'm good looking or I'm ugly.
Yeah. Whether you
I'm
think
healthy or I'm sick.
Whether you think you are or whether you think you don't.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the other thing, when I was talking to Kaylee the other day, she said, there's also the one about the wolf. Which one are you feeding?
Yeah.
The wolf or the...
There's two wolves inside of you.
Inside of you, and which one are you feeding?
Yeah, a good wolf and a bad wolf.
Yes.
Or something like that.
You have two wolves inside of you, and when the young Indian boy comes to his grandfather and asks for advice or something along those lines, and the grandfather says, well, there are two wolves inside of you, and the boy says, well, how do I know which wolf I am? The grandfather says, depends on which one you feed.
Yeah.
Yep. So affirmations, I still to this day, I took Bold for the first time, again, that Keller Williams class.
How many times have you taken Bold?
I don't know if it's 13.
And it's a 7 or 8 week course?
It's a 7-week class. Yeah.
I would love...
Technically lasts 9 weeks long.
I would love to calculate what percentage of your life in the last 10 years, because it's been 10 years, you've spent in bold. Because it's a pretty good amount.
Yeah. Yep.
So you were in bold?
I was, yeah. So in bold, and my first bold, this is back in the day when, how did we get those? Yeah, there were CDs.
Oh, yes.
We would get CDs to listen to with videos or soundtracks to listen to in between sessions. Then we progressed to thumb drives. And
which meant you could put it on like an iPod or an iPhone or whatever.
Yes, yeah. So I can't remember. I might have actually originally burned them on, or I plugged the CDs in, I think, to my laptop to listen to them. My point is, there were affirmations that were recorded, and
it was Diana Kokoska
reading with some man, because they went back and forth.
It's Tony.
Was it Tony?
Not Tony.
No,
the Canadian guy.
I don't remember who it was.
What's his name?
I never knew who he was.
He's Gene.
Gene Rivers? No. Gene Rivers is the Canadian.
It's Gene Rivers.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, they go back and forth with affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
So almost 10 years ago, I started listening to that every morning. And I listen to it every morning when I'm doing my exercises. There's the one I listen to, I think, is like 11 minutes long. So
you still do?
I still do.
Wow, that's amazing.
Every morning.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
I think we might have missed that in your daily routine.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Now, my daily routine, I probably could redo that if I made more notes about what I do.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future, just by chance. But
yes. But, I listen to those every single day. And
a lot of those are like bold laws type stuff.
Yes. Yeah. If they're not bold laws, then they are...
my camera's batteries are dying.
Okay.
I don't know why.
If they're not bold laws, they're related to bold laws. Yeah.
Got it. Well, cool. Okay, well, we're going to get that quote.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to wrap it up here, and then I'll have you read that quote, and we'll be done.
Yep.
Cool. All good?
Okay.
Love you, Dad.
Love you, guy. Thanks. God's lucky. The goddess of luck is fortune. Fortune is the sister of fate. Fate is the divine order, and the divine order is God. So as far as I can tell, if you believe in luck, you believe in God. Matthew McConaughey.